Listen closely, because this might be the last calm moment you get. When society breaks, no one's rushing to trade gold. No one's offering silver for safety. They're hunting for what works, what keeps their blood clean, their bodies warm, and their minds sharp. That's the brutal truth no one wants to say out loud. In collapse, value flips and the smartest preppers, they're not hoarding treasure. They're locking down items that turn into survival currency when the grid dies for good. You think gold will buy you food? Wait till the guy across the fire has a can opener and you don't. Most people still think collapse means chaos in one night. They imagine alarms, riots, and everything falling apart at once. But that's not how it happens. It unravels, slowly. Bit by bit, comfort dies, and need takes its place. And the things people never cared about yesterday become priceless overnight. That's what this list is. 7 products that look average today, but when systems fall, they'll outrank gold, cash, and crypto. I'm not just naming gear. I'll tell you how I'd use it, why it matters, and then I want your take. Because the folks who laugh at this now, they'll be the ones trading watches for wet wipes when it's too late to think. Number 1. Steel wool fire in your pocket. You want to know what's worth more than gold after a collapse? Fire. And steel wool gives it to you anytime, anywhere. Most people look at steel wool and see a cleaning pad, a throwaway kitchen item. But smart preppers? They see ignition silent, reliable, and absolutely lethal in its simplicity. Let's break it down. Steel wool, especially the fine-grade stuff, ignites instantly with just a spark. Pair it with a 9-volt battery, and you've got a portable fire starter that works in wet conditions, low temps, and total darkness. No lighter fluid, no gas, no fancy gear. Just raw ignition when you need it most. That's not all. Steel wool scrubs rust-off tools, restores corroded surfaces, even sharpens edges when you're stuck in the field with dull gear. It's one of those rare items that's light, compact, and multifunctional, and most people leave it on the shelf. You think a gold coin is going to start your fire when your fingers are frozen and you're down to your last chance to cook or boil water? Not happening. But a Ziploc bag of steel wool? That gets traded for food, shelter, even protection once word spreads that you can make flame on demand. My take? I've got rolls of it vacuum-sealed fine grade only. I test every batch before storing it. And I carry it in my go bag, my truck kit, and even in my jacket, because when the lights are out and your matches are soaked, fire equals life. Now let me ask you, do you have steel wool in your kit? Have you ever tested ignition in the rain, the dark, or when your hands are shaking from stress? Because in a real collapse, you won't get a second chance to get that fire going. And the guy who can't make fire becomes someone else's burden real quick. Number 2. Tampons, sterile and sealed. Most people think tampons are just for menstruation, but in a real collapse, they become one of the most versatile and valuable survival items you can carry. A tampon is basically a sterile, compact plug of cotton, and that means it's far more useful than people realize. First, let's talk about medicine. In a grid down, you won't have access to clean, packaged wound dressings or trauma kits unless you've seriously prepped. But a tampon can act as a fast-absorbing wound pack. If someone suffers a deep cut, stab, or puncture, and you have no gauze on hand, a tampon can buy you time by slowing or stopping the bleeding until you find proper treatment. That alone makes it worth more than gold when things go bad. But it doesn't stop there. Tampons also double as excellent fire starters. The cotton ignites quickly and burns hot, which makes it perfect for getting a fire going when you're under pressure or working in damp conditions. It's simple, it's compact, and it just works. Tampons can also be used for pre-filtering dirty water before it passes through your purification system. While it doesn't clean the water completely, it helps remove visible debris and particles, which extends the life of your main filter. In a pinch, they can serve as nasal plugs for nosebleeds or smoke exposure. And yes, of course, they still serve their original purpose, and that alone gives them huge barter value in group survival settings. Smart preppers know, emotional needs don't vanish during collapse. Someone dealing with hygiene-related discomfort, panic, or embarrassment is likely to trade gear, food, or favors for a simple solution. You show up with sealed hygiene supplies when no one else has them? That's not just preparedness, that's leverage. What's my take? I always carry tampons in every major kit. They're sealed, sterile, lightweight, and take up virtually no space. I've even used one during a training drill when someone took a blade cut across the thigh, packed it, sealed it, and it worked until we got proper medical care. So think about it. Are you stocked up? Would you know what to do with one if blood started flowing and you had nothing else? Because when panic hits and people are bleeding or desperate, gold won't mean a damn thing. But the guy with real solutions? He runs the show. Number 3, mouse traps, standard snap traps. When people think about collapse gear, they go big rifles, generators, bunkers. But they miss the small things that keep you alive and in control. Mouse traps are one of those items. Cheap, lightweight, quiet, and completely underestimated. The most obvious use? Yes, catching rodents. In a long-term collapse, food storage attracts pests. And if you think you'll just handle it when the time comes, you're already behind. One rat infestation and your food is gone, your shelter smells, and your group is now fighting sickness. Standard snap traps keep things clean and under control without the mess or cost of poison. But that's just scratching the surface. A standard mouse trap is actually one of the smartest multi-use items in your survival kit. Why? Because it's a reliable, resettable mechanical device. That means you can adapt it beyond catching pests. With a little cord or wire, you can use it as a perimeter alarm. You set a trip line to the trap, and when it goes off, you get a loud snap that alerts you. It's silent when idle, instant when triggered, and impossible to miss in the dead of night. You can also use mouse traps to build small game snares for birds or squirrels. With some bait and light rigging, you've got a hands-free trap that feeds you while you sleep. That's passive income collapse style. Mouse traps are also psychologically powerful. Most people overlook them, which makes them incredible barter tools. You show up with 5 brand new snap traps when someone's camp is being overrun by rats? They'll trade you tools, food, even medicine just to reclaim their space. What's my take? I store them in every long-term supply bin. I vacuum seal packs of 5 with string and bait tucked inside. And I always carry 2 in my go bag, because when you're sleeping in unknown terrain, a few traps on the perimeter is better than nothing. They're quiet, effective, cheap, and most importantly, no one sees them coming. So let me ask you something real. Do you even have a single trap in your supplies? Have you ever set one in the field? Because if you're not catching, alerting, or bartering, you're just waiting. And collapse doesn't wait for anyone. Number 4, battery, operated aquarium air pump. This might sound strange at first, an aquarium air pump? Really? But stick with me, because this one tool can give you an edge most preppers don't even think about. And that's exactly why it's worth more than gold when things go dark. When the power grid collapses, water becomes one of the most fragile resources you've got. Not just in terms of access, but in storage. Think about this. You've stocked up gallons of water in barrels or containers. It's sitting still, unmoving, possibly warming up under the sun. What happens next? That water starts to stagnate. Bacteria begin to grow. Algae spreads. And the last thing you want in a collapse is a stomach infection because your emergency water turned toxic. That's where the aquarium air pump comes in. The battery-operated ones were designed to keep fish alive during blackouts, but smart preppers repurpose them. Drop one in a water barrel for just a few minutes a day, and it oxygenates the water, keeping it moving, discouraging bacteria buildup, and preventing algae growth. It doesn't purify, but it delays spoilage and extends usability, which is critical when clean water sources vanish. That's just the start. You can also use these pumps for improvised water circulation in hydroponic setups. If you're growing food off-grid, moving nutrients through a DIY system becomes necessary. The pump helps move water in passive setups, keeping roots from rotting and plants alive. In other cases, you can rig it to provide airflow in sealed containers or assist in low-pressure ventilation projects when other tools fail. Because it runs on batteries, you're not relying on solar panels or fuel. You just plug it in and let it run for short bursts. It's quiet, lightweight, and often overlooked, which also makes it a killer barter item. Imagine trading one of these to someone with food but spoiled water. That's not a favor, that's power. My take? I keep 3 of these sealed, with backup D batteries stored alongside them. I rotate them out, test them every 6 months, and have tubing pre-attached so I can deploy instantly. So here's the real question. Are you just storing water? Or are you protecting it? Because when supply chains shut down, keeping water drinkable becomes just as important as finding it in the first place. Gold won't make your water safe, but this $15 tool might save your entire stash. Number 5, graphite lubricant. When collapse hits, every movement matters. Every door you open, every drawer you check, every trigger you pull, it all needs to work smoothly and silently. And that's why graphite lubricant, not oil, becomes one of the smartest, most underrated survival tools you can carry. Most people think of lubricant and immediately go for oil, WD-40, gun oil, mechanical grease. But in a real-world survival scenario, oil becomes a liability. It collects dust, turns sticky in the wrong weather, and eventually breaks down your gear if overused. Graphite, on the other hand, is a dry lubricant. It's odorless, temperature-resistant, dust-repellent, and whisper-silent. That combination makes it collapse into gold. Graphite is perfect for locks, zippers, hinges, and firearms. It allows silent access to shelters, gearboxes, or storage units without giving away your position. In high-risk zones, where noise draws attention, this kind of low-signature maintenance tool is a tactical edge. You don't want your safe house door creaking loud enough to wake a pack of looters 2 blocks away. You want to move like a ghost. Graphite helps you do that. It also works better in dirty environments. Collapse means dust, debris, broken structures, and sand blowing through compromised areas. If you've ever used wet oil in that kind of setting, you know what happens: grit sticks, movement jams, and suddenly your tool is worse than useless. Graphite doesn't do that. It glides, cleanly, silently. And in a trade economy, where smart people are protecting their tools, locks, weapons, and improvised gear, graphite becomes an item that commands respect. You're not just offering maintenance, you're offering silence, stealth, precision. You're offering control when most people are fumbling with stuck bolts and jammed latches. I carry a small squeeze tube in every bag. It weighs nothing, lasts forever, and has saved me from exposure more than once. I've used it to silently open a fence gate without alerting stray dogs. I've used it to fix a stuck hatch on a rain barrel. I've even used it to help a stranger unlock a rusted bike chain and ended up trading for extra rations just because I had what they didn't. Ask yourself, are you prepped for movement? Not just escape, but movement that doesn't announce you. Because when collapse rewards the quiet, graphite might be the most valuable thing you own, and no one saw it coming. Number 6, mosquito net. Most people underestimate the threat of insects in a collapse. They think of looters, food shortages, or grid failure, but they forget that the smallest threats are often the deadliest. That's where a mosquito net becomes more valuable than gold. In a grid-down world, you're not sleeping in comfort, you're sleeping outside. In cabins, makeshift shelters, vehicles, or open terrain. And when you do, you're exposed to swarms of biting insects, especially in humid or warm climates. One night of bites won't just ruin your sleep. It can break your immune system, spread infection, or even worse, transmit diseases like dengue, malaria, or West Nile virus. No one's thinking about mosquitoes when they're filling up on ammo and canned beans. But when you've got 30 bites on your legs, an open scratch gets infected, and you can't walk the next day, that's when it hits you. Comfort is survival, protection is leverage. A mosquito net solves that instantly. It's lightweight, foldable, and completely passive. You don't need power, you don't need chemicals. You just hang it, zip it, and rest without the constant buzzing that keeps everyone else awake. And in a collapse, sleep becomes mission critical. If you're not sleeping, you're not thinking. And if you're not thinking, you're not surviving. Beyond sleep, it's also a morale multiplier. In a camp environment, a net gives people privacy, protection, and a sense of control even when everything else feels out of control. And let's talk about trade value. You pull out a brand new mosquito net when someone's been scratching themselves raw for 3 nights straight. You don't just have an item. You have negotiating power. I keep 2 in my long-term kits. 1 personal, 1 for trade. Both sealed tight and tested. I've used them in field training and camping, and I'll never forget the moment I saw someone give up a tactical flashlight just to sleep bug-free. Ask yourself this: how much would 1 night of safe, quiet sleep be worth if your body's on the edge and bugs are feeding non-stop? Because when collapse hits, and infection is 1 bite away, the guy with the net doesn't just rest easy, he wakes up ready to lead. Number 7. Shoe insoles. High quality comfort plus support inserts. In a world without fuel, vehicles, or working infrastructure, your number 1 mode of transportation becomes your feet. And yet, very few preppers ever think about what happens when their boots wear out, their knees start aching, or they're covering 10 miles a day on rough terrain. That's where high-quality shoe insoles become a survival asset most people don't realize they need until it's too late. Collapse means movement. You're walking to water sources, foraging, relocating, patrolling, or bugging out. And if your feet fail, your whole strategy collapses. Blisters, arch pain, shin splints, back strain, they don't sound like death sentences, but they slow you down, make you vulnerable, and sap your energy until you're dragging instead of running. A solid pair of insoles with arch support and shock absorption extends the life of your boots and your legs. Whether you're walking across broken pavement, hard ground, or dense woods, every step counts. With good insoles, that step gets a little easier, and that matters when you're carrying weight or moving under stress. There's also psychological value. When your body is breaking down, small comforts become mental fuel. Sliding in a pair of cushioned, molded insoles into your boots during week 3 of collapse? That's like giving your feet a second wind. It boosts morale, reduces injury, and keeps you mobile, which in collapse means you're still in the fight. And don't forget barter. You show up with new, sealed, high-end insoles in a camp where people are limping from overuse? That's not a comfort item anymore, that's medical-grade mobility support. People will trade food, tools, even meds just to walk without pain. What's my setup? I store 3 pairs, one in my bug-out boots, one spare pair in my go bag, and one set in reserve storage. All are pre-fitted and tested, because I know if I lose mobility, I lose the advantage, period. So ask yourself this: are you prepping your feet like they're your engine? Or are you assuming your factory insoles will go the distance? Because when collapse hits, and the grid's gone and the roads are rubble, your life depends on every step. And the guy who can still run is the guy who survives. So now you know. In a world where gold loses its shine and cash becomes scrap, it's the quiet, underestimated gear like a sealed tampon, a piece of steel wool, or a pair of worn insoles that decides who makes it through and who fades out early. But here's the real test. Are you just watching, or are you actually preparing? Because survival doesn't reward curiosity, it rewards action. The ones who win when society collapses aren't the ones with flashy bunkers or viral bug-out tours. They're the ones who notice the details. Who stacked the right gear? Who thinks 2 weeks no, 2 months ahead? If you made it this far, it means you're not just curious. You're serious. You're thinking like a strategist. So here's what you do next. Hit that subscribe button right now. Not for me. Not for the algorithm. Do it for your future self, the version of you that's standing in the middle of blackout chaos while others panic, and you calmly pull out exactly what they forgot. This channel isn't entertainment. It's preparation. Every episode brings you one item, one mindset, one edge closer to being the one person who's ready when no one else is. So subscribe. Lock in. And when the collapse comes, you'll already be 2 steps ahead. Everyone else? They'll be wishing they did what you're about to do right now.